The boy's voice cut through the November wind like a blade through silk. "Don't step inside, sir." Jonathan Webb, 52, founder of Webb Technologies, net worth $4.7 billion, owner of the Greenwich estate whose gates he was about to enter, stopped with his hand on the wrought iron. The voice had come from the shadows beside the stone pillar, small and urgent and absolutely certain. "Your house isn't safe. Someone's waiting inside." This was 4 hours before the police would find Marcus DeLuca unconscious in the wine cellar, zip-tied and gagged. The real Marcus DeLuca, Jonathan's head of security for 9 years. For hours before they discover the impostor had been living in the guest house for 3 days, studying routines, learning patterns, waiting for exactly this moment. The Friday night Jonathan always returned alone from his Manhattan office, his wife Catherine still in Paris for Fashion Week, the house empty except for staff who left at 6. But standing at his own gate in the gathering dark, Jonathan Webb saw only what appeared in the amber light of the estate lamps. A child, maybe 11, maybe younger, wearing a jacket that had once been navy blue, now faded to the color of old bruises. His sneakers were held together with duct tape. His face was thin, all angles and watchful eyes, and he stood with the coiled stillness of someone who'd learned when to run. "What are you talking about?" Jonathan's hand tightened on his briefcase. The quarterly reports inside felt suddenly absurd, the numbers that had consumed his evening now distant and meaningless. The boy took one step forward, into the light. "The man who said he was from your security team? The one who came Wednesday to upgrade the cameras? He's not who he said he was. He's still here, in your house, waiting." Jonathan's pulse kicked up. Wednesday. Catherine had mentioned it in passing during their brief phone call. Marcus had sent someone for the camera upgrade. She'd let him in before her flight, hadn't thought twice about it. "Marcus handled everything. How could you possibly know that?" "I live in the woods." The boy pointed past the estate walls, toward the green belt that bordered the property, the protected land that Greenwich's wealthy used as a buffer between themselves and the rest of the world. "In a tent, when it's warm enough. In the old groundskeeper's shed when it's not. I've been there since September. I watch the houses sometimes. I know who belongs and who doesn't. You're trespassing on private property." The words came automatically, lawyer-trained, even as Jonathan's mind raced. Marcus had sent someone? Marcus never mentioned it. Marcus, who reported every detail, who ran Jonathan's security with military precision, who would never dispatch a technician without confirmation. "I know. I'm sorry. I just needed somewhere safe." The boy's breath came out in small clouds. Behind him, the woods were dark and deep, the kind of dark that swallowed sound. "But that's not important right now. What's important is that man, the one who came Wednesday. He hasn't left. I watched him. He stays in the guest house during the day, but at night, he goes into the main house. He moves things. He practices walking through rooms, like he's memorizing where everything is." Jonathan's hand moved to his phone. "I'm calling my head of security right now." "Marcus?" "He's not answering." "I bet he's not answering." The boy's voice cracked slightly. "Please. I know how this sounds. I know you don't believe me, but I've been watching for 3 days, and I'm telling you the truth. That man is dangerous. The way he moves, I've seen men move like that before. Men who hurt people." Something in those last words, "men who hurt people," carried a weight that made Jonathan stop dialing. This child knew something about violence, had learned to read its signs. Street education, survival curriculum. "What's your name?" Jonathan asked. "Avery. Avery Chun." The boy's shoulders straightened despite the cold. "I'm 11. I've been on my own since June. I'm not trying to rob you or scam you. I'm trying to help you, because you seem like a good person and I don't want you to walk into your house and get hurt." "How do you know I'm a good person?" "Last week, there was a dog in the road, hit by a car. You stopped your car and carried it to the emergency vet in town. You stayed until they said it would live. I followed you. I wanted to see what kind of person does that." Avery's eyes were steady, dark and clear. "A good person. That's what kind?" Jonathan stared at him. He remembered the dog, a retriever mix, golden fur matted with blood, eyes glazed with pain. He'd been late to a board meeting. Catherine had been annoyed when he'd told her. But he'd stayed anyway, until the vet confirmed the owners had been found, the surgery successful, the animal stable. "Even if you're right about this," Jonathan said slowly, "why warn me? Why not just call the police yourself? Kids like me." Avery's smile was brief and joyless. Police don't listen. They ask where your parents are, where you're staying. They take you to the system. I can't go back to the system. His voice dropped. But you can call them. You can make them listen. You just have to believe me first. Jonathan looked at his house. 14,000 square feet of limestone and glass. Security systems worth more than most people's cars. Every window dark except the exterior lights on timers. Somewhere inside, maybe, a man who didn't belong. Or maybe nothing. Maybe just a frightened child's imagination, fed by cold and hunger and the paranoia of survival. He dialed Marcus's number. It rang 6 times, went to voicemail. Marcus always answered. Always. Jonathan tried again. Voicemail. Okay, he said quietly, turning back to Avery. Tell me everything you saw, every detail, and then we're calling the police together. The boy nodded, relief flooding his thin face. Thank you. Thank you for listening. In the woods behind them, something moved in the darkness, wind, or animal, or nothing at all. And in the house beyond the gates, in rooms Jonathan had walked through 10,000 times, a man who wasn't Marcus DeLuca waited with patience learned in prisons Jonathan would never see, counting down the minutes until the billionaire came home alone. 20 minutes later, 2 Greenwich police cruisers sat silent at the end of Jonathan's driveway, lights dark, engines running low. Avery sat in the back of Jonathan's Bentley, door open, wrapped in the cashmere throw Catherine kept for road trips. The boy was shivering, cold and adrenaline both, but his voice stayed steady as he repeated his account for the 3rd time. Wednesday afternoon, 3:15, Avery said. White van, no company logo. Man gets out, maybe 40, tall, muscular, dark hair. He's wearing a uniform shirt that says Sentinel Security, but it looks new. Too new. Like Halloween costume new. The detective taking notes, Ramirez, grizzled and skeptical, wrote without looking up. The gate opens for him. He drives to the main house. Your wife comes out, talks to him maybe 5 minutes. She leaves in a car service at 4. He stays until 7, comes out carrying a toolbox. But he doesn't leave. Where does he go? Ramirez asked. Guest house. Back behind the pool. He parks the van there, goes inside, turns on lights. Stays there Wednesday night, Thursday night, last night. But every night around 10, he comes out. Goes into the main house through the kitchen door. He has a key. Walks through the rooms with a flashlight. Slow. Like he's memorizing. Then he goes back to the guest house around midnight. You watched all this from the woods? Ramirez's tone suggested disbelief. From the old shed. It has windows. I use binoculars I found in a dumpster behind the sporting goods store. Avery met the detective's eyes without flinching. I know it sounds weird, but I don't have TV. I don't have anything. So I watch. I learn people's patterns. It helps me know when it's safe to get water from the outdoor tap, or when I can check the trash bins without anyone seeing. Jonathan felt something crack in his chest. This child, explaining survival strategies to a police detective, while sitting in a car worth more than most houses. The disparity was obscene. The second detective, younger, named Porter, ended a hushed phone call and approached. Marcus DeLuca's not at his apartment. Neighbor says she heard sounds of a struggle Wednesday night, but didn't call it in. Thought it was his TV. Ramirez's expression shifted. All right, here's how we do this. Mr. Webb, you're going to approach the house exactly as you normally would. Gate code, front door, like any Friday night. We'll have 3 officers in position, 2 at the back, 1 in the woods line with sight on the guest house. You get inside. You leave the front door unlocked behind you. You don't confront anyone. You turn on lights, make normal noise. If someone's there, we move when we hear contact. And if he's armed, Jonathan's voice was calmer than he felt. Then you hit the floor and we handle it. Ramirez turned to Avery. You stay in this car. Door's locked. Anything goes wrong, Officer Kim drives you straight to the station. Understood. Avery nodded. Be careful. He moves quiet. Like he's trained. Jonathan met the boy's eyes. Thank you. For this. For your courage. Just don't get hurt. Avery whispered. Please. The next 12 minutes stretched like hours. Jonathan drove through his own gate with hands that wanted to shake. The house rose before him, familiar and suddenly alien, every shadow a potential threat. He parked in his usual spot, grabbed his briefcase, walked to the front door with manufactured casualness. His key turned in the lock. The alarm panel blinked, waiting for his code. He entered it, 1-8-7-3, Catherine's birthday, and the system disarmed with a soft chime. Normal. Everything normal. Just a man coming home. He set down his briefcase, hung his coat, turned on the foyer lights, the hallway lights, the kitchen lights, the route he always walked, the routine of arrival. The house smelled like the lemon polish the cleaning service used. No sound but his own footsteps on marble. Maybe Avery was wrong. Maybe the boy had seen a legitimate technician, paranoia adding sinister meaning to innocent actions. Maybe the man emerged from the dining room with the silence of smoke. He was exactly as Avery had described. Tall, muscular, dark-haired, wearing dark clothing now instead of a uniform. And he was holding a gun, suppressor attached, aimed with the steadiness of professional training. Mr. Webb. The voice was calm, almost friendly. Right on time. Friday night, home by 8:30. You're very predictable. Jonathan's mind raced. The police were outside. The front door unlocked. He needed to keep this man talking, keep him in position. Where's Marcus? Sleeping it off in your wine cellar. Don't worry, he's alive. I need him alive for the security codes I don't have yet. The man smiled. You're going to give me those codes. And the combination to your home safe. And your bank authentication details. And then you're going to sit quietly while I access your accounts and transfer a very specific amount to a very untraceable location. And then you kill me anyway. Jonathan kept his voice level. Well, yes, but I'll make it quick. Professional courtesy. You seem like a decent guy. The gun never wavered. Now, let's go to your study. I've been practicing the walk. Beautiful house, by the way. That Rothko in the living room. Exceptional taste. Jonathan didn't move. How did you get Marcus's credentials? How did you know the gate code? Marcus is good, but everyone has vulnerabilities. This is a gambling problem he thinks nobody knows about. I've been studying you for 6 months, Mr. Webb. I know everything about your life. Your wife's in Paris. Your kids are both at college. Tonight, you're alone. It's perfect. Not quite alone, Jonathan said. The man's eyes narrowed. What? The kitchen door exploded inward. Police. Weapon down. Down now. Everything happened in 2 seconds that felt like broken glass. The man spun toward the kitchen. Gun tracking. Jonathan dove behind the marble island. Ramirez came through the front door, weapon drawn. The man fired twice, suppressed coughs, ceramic tile shattering. Then a louder shot, police issued, and the man went down hard. Gun skittering across the floor, blood blooming on his shoulder. Clear. Porter's voice from the kitchen. Suspect down. Jonathan stayed on the floor, heart hammering, as officers swarmed the house. Someone helped him up, Ramirez, holstering his weapon. You okay? Yes. Fine. He said Marcus is in the wine cellar. They found him there, bound and dehydrated but alive, blinking in the sudden light. The paramedics came, then more police. Then the questions began, statements and evidence collection and the slow machinery of justice grinding forward. The impostor was wanted in 3 states for similar crimes, they learned. Home invasions targeting the wealthy, meticulous planning, usually fatal outcomes. Marcus had interrupted the initial break-in Wednesday night, been overpowered and restrained. The impostor had studied Jonathan's routines through hacked security cameras, waited for the perfect moment when the house would be empty except for his target. It was after midnight when Jonathan finally walked outside. The police were finishing up, the forensics van packed, and ready to leave. Ramirez was taking a final statement from Avery, who still sat in the Bentley, wrapped in cashmere, trying not to fall asleep. Jonathan approached as Ramirez finished. He can stay with you tonight? The detective asked. Child services is backlogged until Monday. Kids in the system already ran from his last foster placement in June. They'll want him back, but for the weekend. He can stay, Jonathan said. As long as he needs to. Ramirez nodded and left. Jonathan slid into the car beside Avery, who jerked awake, startled. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. It's okay. Avery rubbed his eyes. Is Marcus all right? He will be. Because of you. Jonathan paused, choosing words carefully. You saved my life tonight. You saved Marcus's life. You saw something everyone else missed, and you were brave enough to speak up even though you had every reason to stay hidden. I just did what was right. Most people don't. Most people look away. Jonathan turned to face him fully. I want to help you, Avery. Not just tonight. Really help. I have a legal team who can navigate the foster system. I have resources. If you're willing, I'd like to start the process of becoming your guardian. Officially. Avery stared at him, eyes wide. You don't even know me. I know you're observant, courageous, and selfless. I know you risked everything to save a stranger. That tells me everything I need to know. Jonathan's voice softened. I know what it's like to be alone. My parents died when I was 16. I aged out of the system myself. I remember what it feels like to be invisible. I can't give you your parents back, but I can give you safety, education, a home, if you want it. Avery's face crumpled, tears finally breaking through. I want it. I want it so much. Jonathan pulled him close. This small person who'd changed everything, who'd seen clearly when vision should have been impossible. Outside, the November wind moved through bare trees. Inside the car, wrapped in borrowed warmth, two people who'd saved each other began the slow work of becoming family. The paperwork took 4 months. Jonathan's attorneys were excellent. Former federal prosecutors, family law specialists, people who knew which judges to petition and which arguments held weight. Avery's case was complicated by his runaway status, but simplified by the lack of viable alternatives. His mother had died 3 years ago. Cancer, no insurance, a long decline that left him homeless before it left him orphaned. His father was unknown. The foster placements had ranged from neglectful to actively harmful, and Avery had learned that survival sometimes meant disappearing. The boy has demonstrated exceptional judgment and character, the court-appointed advocate wrote in her report. His actions on November 15th reflect not only intelligence, but moral courage. Mr. Webb can provide stability, resources, and most importantly, genuine care. The hearing was set for March 22nd, a Thursday bright with early spring. Jonathan had reduced his hours at Webb Technologies, delegating operational control to the COO. Catherine had returned from Paris, and their marriage, strained for years, had found unexpected new purpose. She'd taken to Avery immediately, perhaps recognizing in his wariness something of her own childhood in Shanghai, before her family's immigration, before wealth made everything easier. He's like a little ghost, she told Jonathan in those early weeks. Always watching, always ready to bolt. We have to let him learn that staying is safe. So they did. They gave Avery the guest suite, not the one behind the pool, which Jonathan had converted into Marcus's new office, but the one on the second floor with windows overlooking the garden. They let him decorate it himself. Posters of national parks he wanted to visit, a telescope for the clear suburban nights, shelves slowly filling with books. They established routines without rigidity. Dinner together when possible. Homework at the kitchen table. Weekend hikes in the woods Avery knew better than any of them. The nightmares came less frequently as winter turned to spring. Avery was in therapy twice a week with Dr. Sarah Kim, who specialized in childhood trauma and didn't push, just created space for healing. His school performance was remarkable. The kid was brilliant, his teachers said, particularly in mathematics and observation-based sciences. Years of watching patterns had trained his brain for analytical thinking. You're going to have choices, Jonathan told him one evening in February, helping with algebra homework. Any college you want. Any career. You could run a company. Solve important problems. The world is wide open now. I want to help people like me, Avery had said quietly. Kids who fall through the cracks. I want to make sure they're seen. On the morning of the adoption hearing, Avery wore a suit Jonathan had taken him to buy, navy blue, properly fitted, the kind that made him look older than 12. Catherine had offered to help with his tie, but Jonathan wanted to do it, his hands surprisingly steady as he folded the silk into a Windsor knot. Nervous? Jonathan asked. A little. What if the judge says no? The judge is going to say yes. I've seen the reports. You're stuck with us now. Good. Avery's smile was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way it hadn't those first months. I like being stuck. The courtroom was small, paneled in oak, warm with March sunlight. Judge Patricia Morrison reviewed the file with careful attention, asked Avery questions about school and his wishes and whether he understood what adoption meant. Avery answered clearly, no hesitation, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who'd made harder decisions in darker circumstances. Mr. Webb, the judge said, turning to Jonathan, you submitted character references from 23 individuals, including 3 senators, the police chief of Greenwich, and the child's therapist. You've completed all required home studies and background checks. Your financial disclosures indicate you can certainly provide material support. She paused. But what I want to know is why. What drove a man of your position to take on this responsibility? Jonathan had prepared for this question, but the prepared answer felt insufficient now. Because Avery saw what I couldn't see. Because he saved my life when he could have stayed silent. Because every child deserves someone who believes in them. He paused. And because I was alone once too, and I remember what it cost me. I don't want that for him. I want him to have what I didn't have. Someone who shows up. Someone who stays. Judge Morrison's expression softened. Mr. Chun, do you have anything you'd like to say? Avery stood, small in his new suit. Just thank you for listening. Adults don't always listen to kids, especially kids like me. But you did. And Mr. Webb did. And now I have a family again. And I promise I'll work really hard to make everyone proud. And his voice caught. You already make us proud, Catherine said from the gallery, her accent thick with emotion. The judge signed the papers with a fountain pen, each stroke deliberate. Congratulations. You're officially a family. Avery Chin Webb. The name echoed in the quiet courtroom. Avery Chin Webb. No longer invisible. No longer forgotten. They celebrated at Avery's choice of restaurant. Not somewhere expensive, but a diner he'd discovered in his months on the street, where the owner had sometimes given him day-old pastries without asking questions. Jonathan left a $5,000 tip and a note. Thank you for feeding my son when he needed kindness most. That evening, they walked through the estate grounds together, Jonathan, Catherine, and Avery. Spring had arrived in force, the garden erupting in color, the woods beyond the walls filled with bird song. Marcus joined them, recovered from his ordeal, a new security system installed that made the previous one look like toy locks. You know, Marcus said to Avery, you're the best security upgrade this place ever had. Better than cameras. Better than sensors. Just pure observation and guts. I just paid attention, Avery said. Most people don't. That's why you're exceptional. Later, after Catherine and Marcus had gone inside, Jonathan and Avery sat on the back patio, watching the stars emerge. The shed where Avery had lived, where he'd watched and survived and finally acted, had been removed, replaced with a small conservatory they'd designed together. A memorial to what had been, transformed into something growing. What are you thinking about? Jonathan asked. That day, when I almost didn't say anything. Avery's voice was quiet. I was so scared. I thought you'd call the police on me. That I'd lose my hiding place. That it would all go wrong. What made you speak up? I thought about my mom. What she would have wanted me to do. She always said watching is important, but acting is what matters. You can see 100 things, but if you don't do something about it, the seeing doesn't count. Avery turned to face Jonathan. I'm glad I was brave. I'm glad I got to meet you. I'm glad too. More than I can express. Jonathan felt the weight of gratitude, of improbable grace. You know what I realized? That night changed both our lives. I could have died. You could have stayed hidden. But instead, we found each other. And everything got better. Do you think my mom would be proud of how it turned out? I think your mom would be astonished and grateful that her son turned into someone so brave and good. I think she's proud of you every single day. Avery leaned against Jonathan's shoulder, comfortable now with closeness. Above them, the Connecticut sky blazed with stars, the same stars that had washed over a boy in a shed with binoculars and a tent and nothing else except courage and conviction. The same stars that now watched him here, safe and seen and loved. The distance between those two realities, a journey measured in months, but feeling like lifetimes. In the house behind them, lights glowed warm. Catherine was making tea, the ginger kind Jonathan liked, the ritual reclaimed and made safe. Marcus was reviewing new security protocols, his dedication unchanged by trauma. And somewhere in the city beyond their walls, children still survived in shadows and cold, watching and waiting and hoping to be seen. But here, tonight, one boy had made it through. One story had turned toward light. And in the morning, Avery Chin Webb would wake in his own room, in his own home, with people who loved him waiting downstairs. He would go to a school where teachers knew his name. He would study and grow and eventually help others the way he'd been helped. It wasn't redemption. You couldn't redeem a childhood already lived in hardship. But it was transformation. It was proof that one moment of courage could cascade into years of grace. That speaking up could save not just one life, but two. creating family where before there was only absence. Hey, Dad, Avery said, the word still new enough to carry wonder. Yeah, I'm really happy. Right now. In this moment. I just wanted you to know. Jonathan pulled him closer. This child who'd saved him, who'd trusted him, who'd chosen family when family chose him back. Me too, son. Me too. And in the spring darkness, under the endless stars, they sat together, found and finding, saved and saving, exactly where they belonged.